Okay, so I didn't want to have to talk about money, especially not out here in these internet streets. And I think that was probably for two main reasons. The first being that I've experienced money as being quite a triggering topic for lots of people, especially those who might feel victimized by money or by their current money situations. And two, it has actually been one of the biggest areas of challenge in my own life. And I guess the vulnerability that comes with that, and talking about those challenges and working through those, also feels a bit scary. But I've prayed on it many times, hoping the answer would be different each time. But has been made clear to me that it is what I'm supposed to be talking about in this next chapter. And actually, for those reasons, it's also why I need to talk about it. And so what am I going to be talking about exactly in relation to money? And the answer is codependency, really, to put it quite simply. So I often think we hear about codependency in romantic relationships and even other types of addiction, like to food and other substances. But I rarely hear people talking about codependency with money, and money addiction. And it affects so many of us, in probably ways that maybe you haven't even realised or connected the dots with yet. So what is codependency with money? So there probably is a dictionary or diagnostic, criteria somewhere, which I haven't looked up. But to share my experience of what it is and how it showed up for myself and also for my clients, essentially it's an over-reliance on money for a sense of safety, well-being, and even our self-worth. And the difficulty is, or one of the difficulties is, just like with food, we each need a certain amount of money to live, right? Depending on where we live, the economic landscape, all of that sort of thing, just like we need a certain amount of food. So complete abstinence, from dealing with money, from having to think about money, isn't really an option. And so we need to do something differently if we're going to overcome it and not have our self-worth and sense of safety dictated by the money that we currently have in our experience, right? And in order to overcome the anxiety that can come with it as well. Now, when I say anxiety, I'm not talking about the anxiety that naturally arises when we actually physically don't have the money that we need to survive, right? We need that anxiety, right? It serves a purpose. It activates us into doing something, to changing something, to allow us to survive. I'm talking about the kind of chronic anxiety and striving and worry about money, even though we are in a situation where actually we do have enough to survive, and often we might even have enough to be thriving. Now, can codependency with money actually lead us into a place of actual survival mode with money where there isn't actually enough? Well, absolutely. Right? So when we outsource our sense of safety and worth to money, it often leads to things like overspending, under-earning, over-giving, essentially the chronic mismanagement of money, which can lead to things like unhealthy debt, maybe, because we can have healthy debt, and that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, it can land us in trouble, right? So it can lead to those types of situations, but it isn't always, it's not that if we have codependency with money or if we have money addiction, that our situation is going to look like one or the other. It can apply to anyone, right? Regardless of what our finances actually look like. And I want to acknowledge that, of course, there are loads of external and systemic factors that contribute to each of our financial situations and our relationships with money, actually. Things like the country that we live in, the opportunities that are available to us, racial, gender, so many different factors. But with the money psych, which is what I'm introducing you to today. I'm here to help with the internal ones, right? Because they're also factors, you know, all is not lost. And I think there can be so much out there about how difficult things are, and how, especially, you know, if you identify as being from a minority of some sort, you know, whether that's racially, whether that's, you know, gender-based, whether that's, you know, sexuality, whatever it might be, I think we can often hear a lot about and experience, you know, I'm not dismissing that, you know, these are very real experiences that we're having within our contexts. But I think sometimes we can forget actually that there are also internal things that we do have control over, that we can do something about. And I do see it as my, you know, one of my many missions probably, to remind people of that, you know, to remind people that actually we do have power, and there is something we can do. And that for a lot of us, it starts with healing, right? It starts from healing and deprogramming from all of the things that we've been told, from the experiences that have had a negative effect on us, that continue to have a negative effect on us, and that hold us back. So I'm going to be talking about it. I will be putting a lot more content around this on my new Instagram page, The Money Psych. So please do follow that if this feels like it might be relevant, or it feels like it might be helpful. Please do share it as well with anybody else that you think might get some value from it. And we will see where this goes. We will see where it takes us, essentially. But it's a conversation that I didn't want to, as I previously said, but I felt guided to start. And it's work that I also love doing. You know, it's work that is a huge honour to be able to do with people, in terms of helping them to overcome codependency with money addiction, especially where they didn't even realise that it was a factor, right? That it was having such a big impact on their lives. And so that they feel free and empowered to make money decisions from a place of power, and not from a place of fear, and essentially, you know, live their best lives. All right, that's all for now. Follow the new page, and I will catch up with you soon.